Livingstone has been producing some very, very strong people during our time, and I was still active today. And some of them achieved great heights. I know that one or two became doctors, some became lawyers, advocates. I was fortunate that through this training that I had at Livingstone, and growing up in an area called District 6, it instilled in me a culture of independence. And also that during those torrid times, I was able to take our pain and anger, but to turn it into something useful for our future generations to be able to take from, to learn from. And despite all those difficult times we went through, I was able to achieve something very, very great. It instilled in me a feeling of what can I achieve to help my community. When I matriculated, and also strange enough, I failed the first time I matriculated, and I think that wasn't through our own fault. Because in those times, because if your school were very politicized, they were targeted, as far as I feel, for failure, especially for matrics. So we had to repeat, quite a few of us had to repeat matric. But in 1958, I eventually matriculated. I also achieved a very important book prize from the school to show how the achievement hadn't kept us, the first failing hadn't kept us back. So I actually won a book prize in 1958 for art. Mr. Esterhuizen was the teacher. And Essie, as we called him, was determined to get me to take my art career further forward. I, in a sense, felt this was not my route I'm going to be taking, because I was into sport. And art definitely wasn't fitting into sport at that time. So I had to turn down his offer, because he was going to take me for further lessons and then also get me to the McCady's School of Art in town. So then when I left, we parted ways. And then going into the world, the wide world, I eventually ended up and everywhere I went, every job I took, I was able to achieve and make a success of it. Till eventually I landed at a huge fishing company, where I was also very successful. Won't mention any names. And while working there, I still felt, and at that time, the Group Areas Act was very, very strongly in effect, and people were being shifted out. Even my own people being shifted out from District 6. But you must remember, in Cape Town at that time, there were over 42 areas of forced removals, of which District 6 was the largest concentration of people being moved out, where plus or minus 60,000 of us were taken from the center of the city and very unceremoniously dumped 15 to 36 kilometers out of the city into what is known as the Cape Flats. And there, of course, you were then working on the divide and rule system, where people were taken out of their specific areas and then placed among total strangers. So everything that was community-based was destroyed. Your families, your friends, your schools, your churches, your sports clubs, all gone. And that happened to District 6 as well. And while working at this firm, doing very well for myself, I felt that I am not happy here. There's something very, very wrong here. My people are suffering out there. Isn't there anything I can do to assist and help them? Then one day I saw an advert that the technical college was offering courses for health inspectors. So I then decided that that is what I want to do, because now I'll be able to work amongst the community if I'm successful. I then discussed it with my then boss, and he said, well, go ahead, because we'll even help you with that, which I did, because there was times I had to work, I had to go to classes, leave earlier for classes, which I then did. And eventually when I passed my course, I then, successful, came back to them and said, right, guys, thank you very much. I've done the course. So they said, right, let's see where we could place you, because then they had places for hygiene officers in the firm, you see. And that would have been a feather in their cap that the first person of color would be going into working for them. And I said, well, thanks very much. Thanks for all the assistance, but I'm not going to be working for you. And he said, are you crazy? Where are you going to work? So I said, I'm going to work for the municipality. He said, you're going to earn 2/3 less than what you're earning there. I said, it's not about the earning. It's about what I can do for my community. And for 34 years, I worked amongst the community. I worked every depressed area there was in the city of Cape Town, out in at Cape Flats, and was able to instill in many people a feeling of self-worth. I eventually also landed up in Hanover Park and lived there for a couple of years. But in working there, I also was able to get the youngsters to do bodybuilding. We got them into fitness classes. We got them to play soccer. We built up a soccer team, a team that was destroyed in Cape Town, Ariel's Football Club. We were able to start another group from Hanover Park. We got a lot of us, so the team never actually disappeared like so many of the other teams. The school taught me these values. It wasn't about me, it's what I was taught. Not about me, but how you can assist your fellow man. And doing this, I eventually landed up at the District 6 Museum when I retired from City Council. I then worked for the museum, and there I was able to tell the story of our forced removals, telling it to not to one, not to two, but to thousands of people, local and overseas. Eventually, 3 years ago, the University of Edinburgh saw fit to grant me an honorary degree. But unfortunately, due to COVID, I couldn't go. Then last year, on the American Day of Independence, by the way, I got my honorary degree at the University of Edinburgh, which I felt was the crowning glory of everything that was taught to me by a fantastic school like Livingstone.